Hello, Aries. If you're hearing these words right now, maybe there's a question carved quietly into your heart. One you've kept hidden for far too long. A question that kept you awake in the silence of long nights. Why do they always leave? Why did the one who once promised to stay by your side for life suddenly vanish like smoke from your world? Why do friendships that felt unbreakable dissolve like sea foam quietly without warning? You once loved someone with your whole heart. You held nothing back. You gave everything, your time, your devotion, your loyalty, even the most vulnerable parts of yourself. You didn't hide. You didn't pretend. You weren't afraid to be hurt as long as the love was real. But still, they walked away. No explanation, no goodbye, just you standing in an empty room, listening to the echo of days long gone. And then came the question, what did I do wrong? Was I too intense? Did I love the wrong way? Or is there something in me that pushes people away? There were nights you stood in front of the mirror searching for a flaw. There were days you dimmed your own light, hoping that maybe if you were just a little softer, a little smaller, they might stay a little longer. But Aries, what if I told you it was never your fault? It was never about you being too much. You were born with something different in your soul, a sacred code, a stellar frequency woven into your spirit since the very first breath you ever took. A burning energy like no one else. A destiny written in the fire of Mars, the planet of action, of warriors, and of rebirth. Do you remember the first time you realized you were different? Maybe it was a childhood afternoon when the other kids were busy playing and you instinctively stepped up to protect someone who was being bullied. Or maybe it was during a meeting when everyone stayed silent and you were the first to speak up to call for justice. From early on, you knew you couldn't live a life that was neutral. You couldn't love halfway. You couldn't walk slowly through something that made your heart beat faster. You couldn't say that's enough when your soul was still reaching. You burn literally. And you carry that fire into every relationship you enter. But sometimes that same fire has left you hurting because not everyone knows how to live close to flames. Not everyone can handle the heat of a heart that pulses with storms of love and truth. Not everyone understands that when you get angry, it's not because you hate, but because you care so deeply that you can't stand the cold. Aries, you don't have to change your light just to make it easier for others to look at you. You don't have to put out the flame just to be allowed to stay. What you need is to learn the shape of your own fire, to understand how it moves and how to guide it instead of letting it burn what you love most. And that begins with seeing yourself not through the lens of hurt, but through the light of truth. Because maybe no one ever told you this before. You weren't born to be loved in the usual way. You were born to be the first spark. The one that awakens something deep inside another person's chest. And because you are that spark, some people will fear you. Some will walk away. But that is not the end of your story. No, it's not. Because the journey of an Aries doesn't end in the silence of those who leave. It only begins the moment you realize your own power. The real kind, the kind that doesn't ask permission. And now, let me take you just a little deeper to a place where you'll see not just why it once hurt, but why you now must become stronger than ever. To a place where your light is not just fire, but fire with a soul. Are you ready, Aries? Let's keep walking right after this breath. There's something people don't usually say about Aries. It's that you never enter someone's life by gently knocking on the door. You walk right in. You charge forward like the first gust of spring wind. Powerful and unannounced. Like an arrow flying fast without hesitation. Like a flame newly lit in a world that's been cold for too long. You were born under the guardianship of Mars, the planet of fire, of action, and of warriors. And true to that, you don't just live, you fight. You don't just love, you love like it's your final battle. Pouring everything into something sacred you believe in. For you, love isn't a game. It's a mission, a holy ground, something worth protecting, no matter the cost. Because when you choose someone, you choose with your whole being, with your heart, your blood, your breath, with every beat echoing inside your chest. Aries doesn't do halfway love. You don't know how to pause. You don't do just enough. You don't understand what moderate means. Not when it comes to feeling. You love like wildfire, fast, fierce, unapologetic. And maybe that's exactly why most people can't handle it. Maybe you've heard them whisper behind your back. She's too intense. He makes me feel overwhelmed. And then they walk away, not because you did something wrong, but because they've never lived near fire before. They've never stood next to someone who made them see themselves clearly. Someone who made them feel too small, too slow, too uncertain compared to your speed of living, of loving, of sensing. You're the kind of person who lights up the whole room, not because you try, but because you simply can't help but shine. You enter a relationship like a soldier returning from the battlefield, not to brag about victories, but to say, "I'm still here, whole, ready to love again." You're willing to fight for love, but you're also willing to fight to let it go. Because you know, holding on to someone who's not meant to stay will only burn you both down. People see your light. They admire it. They're drawn to it. They even call you different. But when they realize they can't stand that light for too long, they back away. You never meant to burn anyone. You just didn't know that even the most beautiful light needs to be guided. There's an old saying, fire gives light, but it can also burn the forest to the ground. And you, Aries, you are living proof of that. You didn't do anything wrong. You just were never taught how to hold the flame inside you without letting it spill over and scorch the things you were trying so hard to keep. But I'm not going to tell you to shrink. No, you don't need to dim down. What you need is to transform. To go from a reckless spark to a steady torch that lights the path ahead. Instead of burning, you can warm instead of hurting. You can ignite faith. And instead of being abandoned, you begin to attract the right ones, the ones who aren't afraid of your fire but need it to come alive again. Sometimes it only takes one person. One who understands, who stands firm, who has the courage to stand beside you without trying to put you out. They won't run. They'll step in just like you always do. But before they arrive, you need to understand yourself. You need to look directly into your fire and ask it why it burns. Only then can you begin to keep what matters most, not by force, but with the gentle guidance of a heart that's grown wiser. Dear Aries, you don't have to disguise yourself just to be loved. You only need to show up with all your light, but light that knows where to go. Not a fire that burns alone, but one that listens, that pauses, that glows at just the right moment. And in that moment, when you realize your fire was never meant to destroy, but to lead, everything will begin to shift. Because fire, once it understands itself, is never lonely again. When placed in the right space, fire becomes the heart of a home, the place people gather to feel warm again. And maybe, just maybe, you'll start to see something you never considered before. That maybe you weren't the reason someone walked away. Maybe you were the reason they had to finally be honest with themselves. And not everyone is ready for that. But we'll explore that more deeply in the next part of this story, where your role as the spark that awakens, as the mirror that reveals what's hidden in others, will come fully into view. For now, just breathe, Aries, because the next layer of this journey is where you'll begin to see yourself in a completely new light. There's something about you, Aries, that not everyone is sharp enough to see, and not everyone is brave enough to admit. You're not just someone who lives fiercely. You're a spark, a trigger. You don't just show up to love, you show up to stir, to awaken. You don't simply inspire, you shake loose the parts of people that have been asleep for far too long. Like a gust of wind sweeping through a dusty room, your presence, whether you mean to or not, makes people shift in their seats, makes them feel again. You bring rhythm, fire, a reason to begin again. But because of that, you also make them see pieces of themselves they've spent years trying to bury. Before they met you, they could hide those things beneath habits, comfort, roles they've grown used to playing. But you shine with a heat that's real. And that heat casts light on their shadows. And quietly they pull away. You didn't understand it at first. They once loved you madly. They once said they couldn't imagine life without you. But slowly their eyes grew cautious. Their laughter faded into short, polite replies. And one day you weren't the one they wanted to stand beside anymore. Not because you changed, but because without realizing it, you stepped on forbidden ground inside them. The part filled with fear, denial, unlived dreams, and wounds still waiting to heal. Aries, you don't know this, but you are one of the most honest mirrors life has ever offered someone. And not everyone is ready to look straight into that mirror. Not everyone wants to see their stagnation, their avoidance, their pain reflected so clearly. They won't tell you the truth. They'll say you're too intense, too much, too sensitive. You exhaust them, but deep down you touch something they've been trying to silence for years. And so they call you not a good fit. A short phrase, easy to say, but deeply unfair because you're not a bad fit. You're just too real for a world still afraid of the truth. You're not just a flame. You're a wake-up call. You're a pioneer, not just an action, but an energy. Your presence is an invitation. Live fully. Be bold. Do the thing your heart has been quietly aching for. Drop the masks and come home to yourself. And those who are ready, they'll stay. But those who aren't, they'll leave. You're not at fault. You're simply fulfilling your soul's mission to awaken the light in others through your own fire. And sometimes you have to accept that when you turn on the lights in a room that's been dark for too long, not everyone will feel comfortable right away. Some will squint, some will turn away, some will say, "You're too much, too bright." But that doesn't mean you have to dim, because fire Aries was never made to ask permission. Fire is made to transform, to burn away the old, to warm the cold, to light the path for those who dare to move forward. And now, as you begin to understand why people left, as you begin to see the deeper transformation you've been carrying all along, take a deep breath, because the next layer of the story will bring you to a deeper truth. One that's quiet but powerful. Your energy. Aries, even if you don't realize it, has the ability to shift a person's entire state of being, even if they never say thank you. We're about to go there, to that sacred place where you begin to see that it's not just their soul that changes around you, but even their body reacts to the field of fire you walk with. Everything is about to become clearer and more beautiful, but also deeper than before. So stay with me, Aries. What comes next will show you something extraordinary yourself once again, but this time on a whole new frequency. There's something few people truly realize when they step into the world of an Aries. They don't just enter a relationship. They step into a living field of energy where everything moves faster, feels deeper, and burns more intensely. Aries lives at a speed the rest of the world isn't ready to understand. Your heart doesn't beat like most. It doesn't tick like a quiet wall clock. It pounds like a war drum, fast, wild, and always chasing the next horizon. In your world, anything that matters feels urgent. Love has to be wholehearted. Care has to be shown now. Helping someone should be instant, no hesitation. Forgiveness shouldn't take forever. Everything to you is either right now or never. You don't do neutral. You don't do vague promises, half-built relationships, or take it or leave it kind of love. And that's why you emit a certain kind of energy, a heat. Invisible, but undeniable. Anyone near you can feel it. Even when you don't try, you radiate something that makes others want to run faster, do more, live louder. They feel more awake around you, like someone suddenly turned on the lights in a room they'd forgotten was dark. But Aries, not everyone can handle that sudden light. Some people, they're just not ready to wake up. And when you stay too long, too close, too often, they start to feel tired. Not because you did anything wrong, but because unknowingly you've been pouring energy into people who don't know how to hold it. You carry the heart of a warrior, but warriors don't just fight, they sacrifice. And you've sacrificed more than you admit. You give your attention down to the tiniest detail. You listen with your whole being as if someone's story is a map leading you forward. You carry other people's pain as if it were part of your sacred mission. And when you do that every day, every hour, every moment, you don't notice that you're dimming your own light just to keep someone else standing. But not everyone sees that. One day they feel drained. One day they feel trapped, overwhelmed, like they've lost themselves. And they leave. No explanation, no goodbye. Just you left with 1,000 unanswered questions. You're confused. You're hurt. You blame yourself. Did I love the wrong way? No, Aries. You just forgot one thing. You're human, too. You need to receive energy, not just give it. You need someone who knows how to pace the current so you don't burn out. The truth is, your energy field is powerful. It's like lava under the surface. It pushes people forward, but it can also burn if they don't know how to stand near it. And not everyone does. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to understand that being close to an Aries isn't easy, but it's a rare kind of gift. You weren't made to emit half-hearted energy. You were made to shake things up. You touch people's lives like a bolt of electricity, not soft, but deeply awakening. And sometimes that kind of power needs guidance, not to make you weaker, but to help you hold on to those who are truly worth keeping. Because fire isn't guilty for being hot. But even fire needs something to ground into. Even a warrior's heart needs a home to rest. Now that we've come this far, do you see it? What you've been looking for isn't someone who can tolerate you. It's someone who understands how to move with your fire. Someone who doesn't drain your energy, but adds their own to the flame. And now, as you begin to sense how your body emits energy, how your heart transmits its frequency, we're going one layer deeper, closer, softer, and more healing than before. Because soon you'll realize something powerful. It's not just their emotions. Even their physical body responds to your presence. They feel tired, not because they don't love you, but because they don't know how to handle a life force as high as yours. And in the next part, you'll learn how to protect your own heart without ever needing to dim your flame. We'll go there light as the wind, deep as fire. And you, Aries, you will see yourself more clearly than ever before. Aries, maybe after everything you've been through, all the people who came and left, all the times you loved so deeply it left you drained, you started to believe you had to change. Be softer, be lighter, be less of yourself just so others would stay. But I'm here to tell you the opposite. You don't need to put out your fire. You weren't born to fade. The fire inside you is sacred. It's not a problem to fix. It's a gift to understand and guide. The issue was never the intensity of your flame, but how you breathe when the fire is burning. How you give out energy. How you pull it back so you don't run empty. There's an ancient practice once kept hidden in sacred temples where soul warriors trained. It's called the fire warrior cycle. Sounds mystical, but it's surprisingly simple. All it asks is this. Listen to your body and begin with your breath. Warrior breathing. Each morning when you wake and each night before you sleep, take 5 minutes to come home to yourself. No phone, no noise, just you and the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Breathe in slowly. Count to 4. Hold. Count 2. Then exhale deeply. Count to 6. This 4-2-6 rhythm doesn't just calm your nervous system. It expands the energy field around your heart, the place where Aries fire burns the brightest. And you'll be surprised how just a few minutes of right breathing can make your whole inner world feel wider, quieter, and more able to heal. Visualize blue light. Once your breath has opened the door inward, close your eyes and imagine a soft blue light like morning mist drifting through a forest, gently wrapping around your body. Blue is the color of calm. And when you let it surround your heart, your chest, your arms, your face, you create a gentle energy shield, not to hide your fire, but to keep it from spilling out and scorching, to hold it and let it warm the right people at the right time in the right way. They say light is meant to shine, but no one ever said it can't be directed. And now you're learning to aim that light without losing control of it. And finally, grounding. Aries is the pioneer, always reaching upward, moving forward. But you often forget every fire to burn steady needs something solid to root into. So take a few minutes each day, stand barefoot on the ground if you can, and imagine golden roots growing from the soles of your feet, reaching down through dirt, through stone, even magma until they touch the core of this earth. A place of ancient, stable, safe energy waiting for you. Inhale and feel yourself drawing that energy up from the heart of the earth to renew your flame instead of burning from your own life force. This isn't a mystical ritual. It's an act of love. It's a way to tell your heart, I don't have to carry all of this alone. I have the earth. I have my breath. I have myself. And when these three breath, light, and ground come together in a daily rhythm, you won't feel exhausted after loving someone with your whole heart. You won't feel empty after a day of simply being true to yourself. And strangely, the people around you will feel more at ease, too. They won't panic at how strong your light is. They won't pull away feeling overwhelmed. Because now you've learned how to breathe with your own fire. Not to extinguish it, not to suppress it, not to carry it all alone, but simply to breathe with it. And once you begin to learn this new rhythm, the rhythm of a warrior who knows how to hold their flame, let me take you one layer deeper into a truth no one may have told you before, that your light, when guided well, doesn't just preserve precious relationships, it transforms them. In the next layer, you'll see more clearly how someone like you, Aries, can evolve from a lone warrior to a leader who guides through love. We're about to reach that place where your fire doesn't just burn, it awakens the soul. Get ready, Aries. The most beautiful part is still ahead. Dear Aries, if you're still listening to these words, then maybe, just maybe, something inside you is beginning to shift. Like water slowly seeping through a crack in dry stone. Like the smell of fresh-cut grass after the first rain of spring. Like one deep breath after years of only breathing on autopilot. You're beginning to understand you don't need to dim your flame just to keep someone from leaving. You don't need to become a softer version of yourself just to be loved. All you need is to learn how to guide your fire with love, with awareness, with the clarity of a soul who has grown through being left behind. And once you do that, something beautiful begins to happen. The relationships that once felt overwhelmed by your energy suddenly feel lighter, more steady, more peaceful. The people who once backed away, who couldn't keep up with your intense pace, now find it easier to breathe beside you. Not because you've shrunk, not because you've become less, but because you know when to shine and when to give space for others to breathe in their own rhythm. You're still you, still the trailblazer, still the one who lights the way in the dark, the drumbeat that leads the April. But your fire now, it's no longer wild. It's held by hands that have learned not to burn themselves. And from there, you've learned not to burn others either. You'll see old relationships begin to heal, not because they've changed, but because you've started choosing differently. You now choose those who can walk with you, not just behind you. You choose shared direction instead of dragging someone to keep up. And in that shift, something strange and sacred begins to unfold. People no longer run from you. They move toward you because now they feel safe. A kind of safety that only comes from someone who's been through the storm and knows how to stand still when the wind begins to rise. You've come so far, Aries, and now you deserve to look back to see how much has changed. No more love that burns and fades. No more connections that leave you exhausted, always proving your worth. No more long nights wondering why they left. Instead, you are here fully present with eyes that see clearly and with people around you who are awake enough to say, "I'm not afraid of your fire. I need it and I want to walk further with you." Aries, there's nothing more powerful than staying true to yourself and still being able to keep the right people close to live in your truth and no longer feel alone because of it. And right here at this layer, as you begin to understand that you don't have to sacrifice your essence to be loved, we're ready to go deeper to the part of the journey where you stop blaming yourself. Where the old grief starts to let go, where your heart learns how to open, not just to let others in, but to let your own light stay with you a little longer. Because there's one more thing, the most beautiful, the most powerful is still waiting for you right in the center of this path. We'll keep walking. No rush. Just breathe. As long as you're still breathing, your light is still here. Dear Aries, after all the soul journeys you've taken, after the losses, the silent goodbyes, after those long nights lying still in the dark with a heart still burning as if it never stopped, maybe what you need most now isn't someone new to love you completely, but you coming home to forgive yourself. To forgive the times you loved too much. To forgive the times you gave everything and were still left behind. To forgive the days you blamed yourself, shrinking your own light just to make someone stay. You weren't wrong. You were never wrong. You just didn't yet understand. You carry a sacred fire in your heart. A kind of energy that not everyone is mature enough to hold. A kind of light that was never meant to be hidden, only guided. You don't have to soften in ways that feel false. You don't have to hold back the waves of feeling just to fit into someone's shallow world. All you need is to live in your full energy with direction, with intention, with the compassion of a soul who's grown through being abandoned. And when that happens, you'll stop hurting yourself for the ones who turned away. You'll stop rewriting your story with the voice of blame. Instead, you'll begin to tell your life again with the voice of someone who understands, who forgives, who knows how to find peace even when they aren't fully understood. You'll stop asking, "Why did they leave?" and start whispering instead. Maybe they just weren't ready to walk into a place where the light doesn't just shine, but burns away everything false. You weren't born to fit inside boxes the world built for others. You were born to blaze trails, to stir something awake in people, to make someone want to live bolder simply because they met you. But before you can transform the world, you must first learn how to keep your own fire steady. Not burning everything down and not dimming yourself out of loneliness, but keeping it alive, firm, gentle, anchored like a lighthouse in the night. Dear Aries, if you leave this story today with just one thing, let it be this. You never have to apologize for loving fully. You only need to learn how to keep some of that energy for yourself. And if someday you look back with gratitude, with softness in your own eyes, remember this place. Remember, there's still a voice here. There's still a quiet space. There's still a light waiting for you to return whenever you need to be reminded that you are always worthy of love, of understanding, of a life where you never have to shrink just to survive. Thank you for staying through the deepest layer of this story. Thank you for listening with your whole heart, whether it's strong or cracked open. I'm your storyteller today, and I believe one day as you walk your own path, you'll realize that fire in you was never the reason people left. It's the very thing that makes the right ones want to stay forever. I'll meet you again in another chapter where the light continues to bloom through the cracks, where warrior hearts like yours can finally rest without putting out the flame. I'll be there with full presence and the silence needed for you to hear yourself again. Sleep well, Aries, or wake up with a brand new heart. Still you, but warmer, brighter, and stronger than ever.